The NFL world lit up after the Browns' gritty win over the Bengals, and not just because of the final score, but because Myles Garrett officially stamped his name deeper into league history by hitting a new sack milestone in a game that felt like pure warfare in the trenches. The Bengals came in trying to test Cleveland's defense, but Garrett had other plans, exploding off the edge, wrecking protections, and making life miserable for the quarterback snap after snap. By the fourth quarter, the sack record was sealed, and the stadium energy flipped into chaos. But the real moment that shook the timeline didn't come from the stat sheet alone.
He's been waiting for, do it against a team that, unfortunately came up a little bit short with at the beginning of the year. And I know he's been waiting at the second crack at this, and God willing, he went out there and put it right down the middle.
It came after the game, when Garrett stepped in front of cameras and publicly defended Shedeur Sanders, who has been catching nonstop heat from analysts, former players, and loud social media voices questioning his toughness, attitude, and NFL future. As sources claim, Garrett didn't mince words. He made it clear that Shedeur is built for pressure, built for noise, and built for the spotlight that comes with his last name. This mattered because Garrett isn't just any defender talking. This is one of the most respected defensive players in the league, a guy who eats quarterbacks for a living and knows exactly what real competition looks like. The timing was perfect and messy at the same time. Just days earlier, Shedeur had been trending after critics called him overhyped and protected by his brand, especially following intense scrutiny around Colorado's season and his transition toward the NFL conversation.
Beginning of the season, end of the season, last game of the season. No, I'm just proud of him and glad to have him win. He's been waiting for, do it against a team that, unfortunately came up a little bit short with at the beginning of the year. And I know he's been waiting at the second crack at this, and God willing, he went out there and put it.
Garrett stepping in changed the tone instantly. The sack record game became more than a defensive masterclass. It became a statement night. Cleveland fans were already buzzing about the Bengals' rivalry, but once Garrett's comments hit social media, the narrative expanded. People weren't just talking about sacks anymore. They were talking about respect, credibility, and who really understands the grind of football at the highest level. The locker room reaction added fuel, with teammates backing Garrett's stance, saying real players recognize talent when they see it, not just box scores or hot takes. This wasn't polished PR talk. This was street-level football respect being handed out publicly, and it rattled the same critics who had been dragging Shedeur all season. The message was clear. Elite players see the work, see the hits, and see the leadership, even when the noise says otherwise. The context behind Garrett's defense made it even louder. All season long, Shedeur Sanders has been under a microscope that most quarterbacks never experience, especially at such a young stage in the game. Every throw, every interview clip, every sideline reaction has been chopped up and judged. As sources claim, some NFL insiders questioned whether Shedeur could survive behind a shaky offensive line, whether his confidence crossed into arrogance, and whether his game would translate once defenses got faster and meaner. Garrett shut all that down in one move. After recording the historic sack and locking in the win against Cincinnati, Garrett reportedly said defenders know when a quarterback is legit because they feel it in the pocket, in the way the ball comes out, and in how the QB stands back up after getting hit. That wasn't accidental wording, that was pointed. The internet exploded because Garrett's words directly contradicted the narrative being pushed by certain talking heads.
This season, end of the season, last game of the season. No, I'm just proud of him and glad.
Suddenly, clips of Garrett chasing down quarterbacks were being paired with highlights of Shedeur standing tall after brutal hits at Colorado. The contrast was powerful. This wasn't a former player trying to stay relevant. This was a current nightmare for offensive lines vouching for a QB many were trying to tear down. Meanwhile, the Browns' win itself added another layer. Beating the Bengals always carries weight, and doing it while Garrett breaks records only amplifies the moment. Analysts started reframing the story, saying Garrett's comments could influence how NFL front offices talk about Shedeur behind closed doors. Respect from elite defenders carries currency in scouting rooms. It signals toughness, awareness, and legitimacy. Fans noticed it too. Shedeur supporters flooded timelines, saying this was the validation critics couldn't ignore. On the flip side, haters scrambled, claiming Garrett was just being supportive or speaking in general terms. But the wording was too direct to spin away. The league saw what happened. A record-setting defensive monster chose that moment to speak up, and it didn't feel random at all. It felt calculated, like a message sent across the league that football culture still values on-field reality over hot-take noise. The result was a shift in tone overnight. The conversation wasn't just about whether Shedeur belongs. It became about why so many people were desperate to say he doesn't. As the week rolled on, more details leaked about how Garrett's comments landed inside NFL circles. As sources claim, multiple defensive veterans privately agreed with his stance, saying quarterbacks like Shedeur take punishment that doesn't show up in stat lines. This matters because durability and mental toughness are things defenders respect more than flashy numbers. Garrett's sack record game against the Bengals symbolized dominance, but his words symbolized authority. He didn't defend Shedeur from a place of fandom, he defended him from a place of understanding violence in football. The Bengals game tape made the message hit harder. Watching Garrett collapse pockets while knowing he respects a QB who stands in and delivers created a powerful contrast. Media outlets started connecting dots, noting that Shedeur has taken more hits than most college QBs and still commands the huddle without flinching. That toughness is currency in the NFL. Meanwhile, the Browns' locker room reportedly loved the moment. Players said it felt like a reminder that football isn't decided by podcasts or comment sections, it's decided in the dirt. Garrett's record-setting sack didn't just boost his legacy, it elevated his voice. When someone with that resume speaks, people listen, whether they like it or not. The controversy only grew when clips resurfaced of critics previously questioning Shedeur's entitlement. Garrett's comments indirectly shredded that narrative. Elite defenders don't respect entitlement, they respect resilience. The timing also lined up with draft chatter heating up, which made the defense feel strategic even if it was purely honest. NFL teams pay attention to how players are perceived by their peers. Garrett essentially handed Shedeur peer validation on a silver platter. That's huge. It reframed the conversation from speculation to acknowledgement. Fans started comparing it to moments when respected veterans defended young stars before they fully broke out. History shows those moments matter. They often mark turning points in perception. The sack record was already headline-worthy. Tying it to Shedeur made it unforgettable. This wasn't just a football moment, it was a culture moment within the league. The fallout didn't stop there. Sports shows debated whether Garrett overstepped, which only made things worse for the critics. The question wasn't whether he should speak. The question became why his words hit such a nerve. As sources claim, some analysts felt exposed because Garrett said out loud what players whisper privately. That football judgment shouldn't be outsourced to outrage cycles. The Bengals' loss faded into the background as the narrative shifted toward credibility. Garrett had it. The critics suddenly didn't. Social media clips of Garrett's sacks were stitched with captions about real football voices, and that message spread fast. Shedeur didn't even need to respond. The silence spoke volumes. His supporters framed Garrett's defense as a reminder that football success isn't linear or polite. It's earned through hits, losses, and standing tall anyway. The Browns' win also strengthened Garrett's platform. Breaking a sack record in a rivalry game cements status. Doing it while calling out lazy narratives elevates impact. The league thrives on respect codes, and Garrett played that card perfectly. Even Bengals players reportedly acknowledged his dominance, adding weight to everything he said afterward. This wasn't internet hype. This was earned credibility colliding with manufactured doubt. The more people tried to downplay Garrett's defense, the louder it became. The situation exposed a deeper issue in football media, where young quarterbacks are often labeled before they're allowed to grow. Garrett's stance pushed back against that trend in real time. It reminded everyone that elite players don't evaluate based on vibes. They evaluate based on survival, execution, and courage under pressure. That's where Shedeur earned respect, not in headlines but between the lines. By the end of the week, the story had fully flipped. What started as a sack record and a Bengals loss turned into a moment of accountability across football culture. Myles Garrett didn't just dominate on the field, he dominated the conversation. His defense of Shedeur Sanders forced people to confront their biases, their narratives, and their comfort zones. As sources claim, NFL scouts took notice, not because Garrett hyped Shedeur, but because he validated traits scouts value most. Toughness, poise, fearlessness. Those don't show up in fantasy stats. They show up when elite defenders speak your name with respect. The Browns' win became symbolic, a reminder that real football voices still matter. Garrett's sack record will live in the books, but his words may live longer in shaping perception. The scandal wasn't about what he said, it was about who he was when he said it. An unstoppable force choosing to defend a quarterback under fire sends a message no debate show can drown out. The noise didn't disappear, but it lost control of the narrative. Respect took over. That's rare, that's powerful. The ripple effects from Myles Garrett's stance continued to spread across the league in the days that followed, and the conversation shifted from hot takes to accountability. Inside NFL circles, as sources claim, Garrett's defense of Shedeur Sanders sparked deeper discussions about how young quarterbacks are evaluated before they ever take a professional snap. Too often, perception gets locked in early, and Garrett's comments cracked that door wide open. Executives, former players, and defensive veterans reportedly pointed out that quarterbacks who survive constant pressure without losing command earn respect fast, even from opponents. That exact trait is what Garrett highlighted. Coming off a record-setting performance for the Cleveland Browns against the Cincinnati Bengals, Garrett had the credibility to reset the tone. This wasn't theoretical talk. It was spoken by someone who studies quarterbacks by breaking them down physically every Sunday. Analysts began rewatching Shedeur's college tape with a different lens, focusing on pocket movement, decision-making under pressure, and how often he absorbs hits without flinching. Those details changed the framing. The criticism that once felt loud suddenly sounded shallow. Meanwhile, Garrett's sack record added historical weight. When a defender of that caliber speaks, it's understood as earned insight, not favoritism. The moment exposed a disconnect between media narratives and locker room reality. Players know who's real. They always have. Garrett's comments simply pulled the curtain back. Social media reaction reflected that shift, with more former players stepping up to echo similar sentiments about toughness and leadership. The noise didn't disappear, but it lost its edge. The league thrives on respect codes, and Garrett activated one that doesn't care about branding or controversy. It only cares about survival in the pocket and courage in chaos. By the time the next game cycle rolled around, the impact of Garrett's defense had settled into something more permanent, a recalibration of respect. As sources claim, Shedeur Sanders' name began surfacing in more serious football conversations, not as a debate topic, but as a legitimate evaluation. That's the difference Garrett created. The sack record game became a turning point because it fused dominance with principle. Garrett didn't just talk, he backed it with violence on the field. That combination carries weight in a league built on credibility. The Browns' defensive leader reminded everyone that football judgment isn't crowdsourced. It's earned through collisions, film study, and shared understanding of the grind. Garrett's words didn't crown Shedeur, they validated the struggle. And that distinction matters. Quarterbacks don't need hype from defenders, they need acknowledgement. The message resonated because it aligned with football truth. Pressure reveals character. Shedeur has lived in pressure. Garrett recognizes that because he creates it. The broader takeaway hit hard. This wasn't just about one quarterback or one sack record. It was about reclaiming football discourse from surface-level outrage. Garrett's moment became a reference point, cited whenever lazy criticism surfaced. The scandal angle faded, replaced by something stronger: credibility. Fans, analysts, and even skeptics had to acknowledge the shift. When elite defenders speak, the league listens. Garrett used that platform responsibly, and the impact showed immediately. The sack record will be remembered, but the respect moment may shape conversations long after the stat fades. And that's why this moment hit harder than any stat line. If this breakdown brought value, hit the like button, subscribe for more real football stories, and stay locked in for what's next.